nimekutafuta sana, nimechoka kudanganya, hisia zangu nimeficha, na siwezi vumilia anymore. Basi acha kunikimbia, nikikutafuta my dear. Kuna haja kubadilisha njia, nifes na nieleze kama wanipenda bado au umepata mwingine, kama wanijali bado sheri, kama wanipenda bado au umepata mwingine, kama wanijali bado mami. My baby nakupenda, kupenda. My baby nakupenda, kupenda. Mie, mie, mie.
If I introduce the team, I'll be very, very unfair to them. I would rather they introduce themselves so that you get to know them better. I'll see you. We have quite an amazing team, and I want to start with Rogers. And if you could just say briefly, who is Rogers?
Good afternoon again. So my name is Rogers Odeman. My real name is Roger Olele. Those are the ones on my national ID. I am a musician in Nairobi in the scene. I've been active musically for some years now. And aside from the music, I'm also a promoter. I'm an events organizer. I work with an organization called Zotface Limited. I think the people who have been active in the scene in reference to live band music for the past 4 years. I think it's something you guys have seen. And I'm super passionate about music when it comes to empowering young people in Nairobi, especially because this is where I'm active at. And I guess as we keep on talking, I'll keep on expounding.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I must tell you, you have a totally amazing voice. I must say this. I mean, you know, you have an amazing voice, and you bring a lot of feeling in your music. And we'll be talking a little bit about that history and what you did to your voice,
absolutely,
your vocals, and so on. June, it's always such a privilege to hang out with you. But who is June?
Those are existential questions. We probably need more than just an hour to answer who is June. She's still trying to figure that out, like most creatives. Hi, everyone. Muko salama? Okay, so my name is June Gashui. It's also the names on my ID, and also the name by which I am known in my creative world. By day, I am a lawyer. I practice intellectual property and entertainment law, which is one of the things we'll be discussing today. But I have been a singer, a songwriter, and a performing artist, both on stage and on screen, for about 27 years now. So that's a very big area of passion for me. I, like Rogers, also curate events. What that means basically is that we organize concerts, yeah? And we've been doing that for 10 years now. So trying to work with new talent. So it also keeps my creative journey interesting. And I think my message today, even before we start, is to just applaud you for being in this room and taking the time to learn and improve your knowledge base, because there's nobody else to do it for us as creatives, and I include myself in that group of people. So I look forward to our discussions today. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the opportunities to learn sometimes can be very, very expensive. So when it's offered to you at very minimal expense, then just better take it. Sasa jamani. So if you have intellectual property, copyright issues, and so on, that's where to go, June, because she's in the industry and she's also a lawyer. Okay, Bilha. So nice to meet you finally, one-on-one. We've been talking on phone, me and Bilha, as we are organizing this. So Bilha, who is Bilha?
That's such a deep question. My name is Bilha Ngaruya. I am the country manager at 1RPM Kenya. 1RPM is a DIY distributor for artists. Basically, if you have music and you need your music to get to your fan base, we help you with the software to ensure that you get that for free. So I lead the team in Kenya and currently actually East Africa in helping artists achieve that goal. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. But in general, I have been in the entertainment industry for about 10 years. I look up to people like these gorgeous ladies here, and I'm very glad that you guys are here and honored to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bilha. So, digital platforms, how's your Jamani? Yeah. Those people from Nyeri, there are some people, walikuwa, sisi watu wa Nyeri, tunaweza kunufaishwa vipi na hizi story? Wakati wa lunch, badala ya kumeza chapati, ninaulizwa maswali magumu kama hayo. So all the answers are here. Sasa jamani? Hey, Angela. Hiya, let's go.
Thank you, Prof. I'm Angela Ndambuki. I am a lawyer by profession as well, like June. We have done intellectual property law, but on a day-to-day basis, I work for the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, which is the trade body for the recording industry. So we deal a lot with policy issues, looking after the collecting management organizations and ensuring that they're efficient and transparent. Also data, a lot of, we're the ones who release the Global Music Report every year to see how much the recording industry is growing year on year. So there's a lot that we do. Data, charts, the official charts, worldwide charts are also published by IFPI. So a lot of the music industry issues I handle. At the same time, I'm also the chairperson of the Kenya Association of Music Producers, and my team is also behind there. And this is a collective management organization that actually collects on behalf of the music producers, which June was a CEO once in one of her illustrious career. So yes, I'm also a musician. You say once a musician, always a musician. I don't know if you guys are old enough. You look very young, but we used to have a group.
Like? Which singer? From which group?
Oh, okay. You're not that young. You're not that. Oh, sorry. You're not that old. Yes, sorry. Okay. So I'm part of the all-girl band. One of us is currently in the States. That's why we've gone quiet. But we never say die. We always say that we'll come back and do something. So you never know. I'm also a producer, a writer, a songwriter. Actually, in the group, I'm the songwriter. I don't have the beautiful voices like June and but we're getting there. So it's a pleasure to be here, and just looking forward to discussing more about collective management. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll be coming to CMOs because, we really do need our artists to get the money. Yeah. So how we organize ourselves? But before we get to the CMOs, I want to start with you, Rogers. Just to understand how you got into music. And the reason I ask you this question is, so there is this student who was admitted to join KU and do music, and his father was absolutely disturbed by the fact that the daughter wanted to go and study music. And he walked into my office one day at 8 a.m. and he basically said, Kimani, can you imagine? My daughter, she wants to go to the university to learn how to sing. She just wants to sing. Why should anybody go to the university to learn how to sing? And for 4 hours, I had to work on this old man to tell him that he is not the one who is going to the university to learn how to sing, but actually the daughter was going to be the one to study music. And eventually, of course, we won him over, and he was all right. And eventually he was very, very happy, and he did come back to say thank you very much for converting him. So, how was it for you? Just briefly again.
Okay, of course, when it comes to music and when it comes to the musicians who have brushed shoulders with, everybody has a different journey, and everybody always has a different approach in the way maybe they get into the scene or in the way they get into the music. And what I can say is this: of course, for everybody who has been a musician, I think 90% of the people who are in the scene, most of us began in church, maybe in the choir, in school, maybe when it came to things like the music festival, you just go out there to try out your talent. But for me, when I completed high school, there was an audition by the Kenyan Boys Choir, and luckily enough, I was among the people who were picked. And once I got into that group, the culture of just singing regularly got into me, and then I pushed myself a little bit harder. I got to understand how to play the keys, how to play the guitar, and then after some time, of course, as you said, I think people who were born in the 60s, they have an issue when it comes to music. There's like a stereotype on how somebody becomes once they get into the scene. They view musicians as people who are reckless, people who are not, disciplined. So, of course, my father and my mother were not that supportive when I began. But once they saw me traveling outside in the name of singing in a choir, it kind of changed their mind a little bit. But after Kenyan Boys Choir now, I got into the scene and I started performing with a band. I was a little bit gray, and I needed a little bit of mentorship and guidance when it comes to now putting my work out there and getting good paying gigs. And I think this is something I think we'll keep on discussing today, because I feel like so many people have put their guitars down and they've put their careers behind them because of these aspects. So basically, that's where I am, and over the years, it's been a long journey, and it's not something that I can just talk about in a few minutes. But I'm glad I'm still here, and I'm glad I still have the fire in me. And if you have that thing in you that you really want to, put out there, you really want to sing, you really want to perform, believe you me, maybe right now it can seem like maybe there's no hope, but you can do it professionally. You can do it professionally and you can succeed. And there's so much change in the country right now, Kenya specifically, whereby now music is paying. That's what I can say. That I can see it. It is paying. Yep.
Yeah, music is paying. And we'll be talking about how music is paying in a moment. But I still want to know a bit more from my team. And June, so you carry all these identities. So you carry the identity of a lawyer, an IP lawyer, and you carry the identity of being an artist. How do those two identities sit? How do you navigate in and out of these identities, and how are they perceived? Yeah, especially within the legal fraternity that tends to be very stiff.
Very stiff, yes. I think the best way to answer that is that just the way there are 12 hours in a day, you spend 12 of them hopefully working and 12 of them hopefully sleeping, yes? Or what? How many hours do we sleep? Maybe I need to ask that question. I don't sleep anywhere near enough. So I think it's just about what we choose to do with our time. And I have a new theory about what I'm calling the block of 4, which is a block of 4 hours. So I don't do anything for more than 4 hours in a day. And it's just test that, because I joined radio 2.5 years ago. I host a show on Capital FM, and that taught me to look at time differently. The show is 4 hours. Once it starts and finishes, it's done. So before that show and after that show, how can I organize my time? So I start my day maybe like at 6 in the morning, so 6 to 10. I check my emails, I work on things that I can do from my computer at home. So my legal work begins most probably like at 6. From 10, I start taking meetings with clients who want to see me like physically, right? In the office, then I work till 2. Because we're in Nairobi and traffic is a problem, I have to leave by 2 to make it to the show by 3. And then the show is 3 to 7, another block of 4. And then now 7 to 11, either sherehe, go meet your friends, have a pint, or go home and sleep and watch Netflix, right? So I realized that that makes my brain relaxed, because I'm not trying to do anything for 16 hours in a day, but I can do 4 different things with the block of 4. So that's kind of how I've been trying to manage my time. But in terms of how it's interpreted and perceived, it's been, I won't lie and say it's been smooth all the way. I was an artist before I was a lawyer. Okay, I was a musician first, because I started singing when I was 16, like professionally. So sometimes people watch me on stage over the weekend, then they come to my office on Tuesday and they go, "Kuna vile you look familiar," and then they think I'm not a serious person, but I am very serious in my office. But then there are those who appreciate that they saw me on stage on Saturday, because then they'll think this one will understand what I'm going through, because I'm Sani like them. So that's the side I choose to focus on more. Even with corporates, I tell them, you will never understand these artists, because I'm one, if you approach practice of law in a very rigid way. The mean age of Kenya right now is 20.1, meaning there are more young people than there are older people, right? And most of you, and even me, most of us, young people, are in the creative space, right? So if the law firms and the corporates don't start to understand us and how we are working, there'll be a problem. So I always tell them that until they change the way they approach the practice of law and the practice of doing business, it'll be difficult for them, because we are now the majority as young people.
Fantastic. I want to skip Bilha, because I'll come back to you, and to work a little bit with Angela on 2 fronts. The first front is because you are in practice as well as in management and so on, and to ask you the question whether it makes it easier when you are in management and you are part of industry, whether that actually is easier, or you sometimes feel like, I wish I was not part of industry, and therefore, are you able to, how do you navigate this?
Okay. I'll just say from my own perspective,
Yes,
because of course...
Yeah, your own perspective only, yes.
Yes, because other people might think it different. But I would say that it has really helped me in terms of how I manage also the affairs of the rights holders I represent, because I truly understand the challenges and the difficulties that people have to go through to even release a single song, a single video, even a recording. From that whole creative process to writing it down, to being able to finance it. And all these are supposed to be different rights holders. And just to be able, because, when you go out there and you ask for money for music, for the music industry, people don't understand how much or how many even people or companies are behind that piece of music. Oh, ni mziki tu, it's just music. Oh, music only, it's so expensive. No, but how many people are actually behind that music? So if it comes, for example, to collective management, that's why there are different collective managements here. There is the Music Copyright Society of Kenya, who now handle the composer, person who actually composes the music, the author, the one who writes the music. The composition and the authorship are different. Kuna the words, kuna the tune itself, the person who has published, and then there is Camp, which is the music producer, the one who has actually financed the music, paid for the music itself, and then there's the performer, the artist. But you see, and the artists there can be very many artists in that particular song. There's the main vocalist and the even background vocalists, there's the different rights holders. So you can find, yes, it's one piece of music, but there's so many rights holders behind it, which is one thing you have to appreciate when you're in the industry. It's not just music. Sio mziki tu. It's a lot, and it's music business, and that's why we have to ensure that we are able to collect revenues to be able to make sure that the creativity continues, because with revenue, you're able to plug back in. Because time is money, talent is money, you have to be able to compensate the different rights holders. So me being an industry player as well has made me even appreciate the plight of the musicians, for example, or the plight of the record companies or the labels or the artists who are self-producing artists, who is a different class of rights altogether. So that's what has helped me even have that passion to actually push on, as difficult, as challenging as it might be, but really push on because of that experience.
Absolutely, because you're part of industry, therefore there is more empathy and so on. But again, from your own perspective, because there are other people might like, I want to be less empathetic, and so on. And because you've talked about money and resources, I want to go there with you, because at camp you have this huge responsibility of supporting artists, but most of our people do not know what CMOs actually do. And because I'm in a number of social media platforms, and I can see almost a sense of lack of clarity between what Kekobo does and what CMOs do, and the responsibilities. So if you could just maybe give us a very, very basic, and I know that you might want to project, is that? You have the CMO slides?
I just had some slides just briefly to just go through what the role of the collective management organizations are, what the role is.
I think Amos has.
You have it, Amos, and Prof, you also have it. But as it's being put up generally, and I don't know if Sharon had managed to highlight what Kekobo does. So the Kenya Copyright Board is a government body. It's a regulator that regulates copyright issues in Kenya. So their main mandate in relation to the collective management organizations is actually to license and to supervise the CMOs. Because where CMOs collect money, and you would say that it is public money, we have to have a regulator to regulate us and ensure that we're doing the right thing. So Kekobo is there, and their mandate is actually to ensure that we do the right thing. On top of that, of course, they sensitize in copyright issues. They have their other mandates that are pegged or highlighted in the Act, the Copyright Act, laws of Kenya, and those are stipulated there as an agency, as a government agency. But the collective management organizations are private bodies. They are membership organizations. So if you're a composer, you've composed your music. If you've written your music, then you belong to MCSK, the Music Copyright Society of Kenya. If you're a publisher, also the MCSK. And remember we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but if copyright is there, copyright has, you'd say, it typically has, for music, has two main arms. Yeah, the composition, the musical work itself, and the sound recording, which is the music, the one that you hear. The musical work are those notations, staff notations and everything, and the recording is the music now when it's recorded, that's what you hear. So two main arms, and the copyright holders now belong to the Music Copyright Society, and then for this other arm, where basically the producer of the sound recording and the performer who's a musician are there, they belong to CAMP and PRISC. So, those are the differences of at least the three music societies that we have, or rather CMOs that we have in Kenya. And their work is actually to ensure that we collect royalties or collect license fees from the users. Anyone who uses music in public, we collect those as license fees and distribute them as royalties to the various rights holders. So an example of a user who uses music, give me an example. Matatu, perfect. A club, brilliant. Barber shop. And the main ones? The main ones where you listen to, what do you listen to? Radio, yes, broadcasters. Who are not paying. So we'll go there that's another conversation for another day. But yes, you'd want to hear, the issues that you'd hear online is that these societies are not paying. Yes, I have to accept that there are some challenges within the societies, but the bigger challenge actually comes out of compliance. You would see, and I would give this example, for example, for the broadcasting sector. If you look at, in Kenya, we have over 400 stations as per the registered broadcasters from the Communications Authority. I'm doing the comparisons with a country, a small country like Botswana. Botswana has 2 million people. I think there are even more cows in Botswana than the people themselves. We are in Kenya, we have almost, let's say, 50 million people with 400 stations. Botswana has those 2 million people with 6 stations. And most of them are even government-run stations. Botswana collected an equivalent, I would say, of around 100 million Kenya shillings with their 6 stations. When we're doing this research or this data analysis, was 2-3 years ago, and Kenya collected 11 million shillings from their 400 stations. So from issues of the tariff, what Botswana charges, which is 10%, which we are grateful to the government, the current government, that has actually adjusted those tariffs upwards to 10%. When you look at PwC data, you find that the broadcasters' advertising revenue has actually been, if you calculate it and have a 10% on that, it's actually 1 billion shillings. So instead of 1 billion, we collected those 3 years back 11 million. So you can see why the payments are not going out, because...
But why are we not able to collect? Because I thought that, is it the tracking, is it the monitoring, or is it just...
Payment. Compliance.
People just not paying.
They're not just not paying, yes. Though we have recently been seeing an increase in the broadcasters' collection. I think we're currently at 26, 27
There was a time we
million.
were trying to tie this with CA. So we were trying to tie it up with licensing, where we are saying that, but when you renew your license, can we see evidence that you've actually been paying? Was that effected?
Yes, it was effected, and it's actually why we're seeing the increase. But there's still some challenges there, but you can understand some broadcasters also don't even take up the CA license in itself. So we have compliance issues, but I think that's where we now go. As CAMP, we have agreed with the board to actually just take other steps and go the legal way, where we can actually go to court and compel the broadcasters to pay, or other issues that we can be able to take under the Copyright Act, things like Anton Pillar orders, where you can actually go and get the equipment of the broadcasters. So we're now saying it's too much. It's too much. I mean, June was there. How many years ago, June? 8 years ago. They are not complying. 8 years later, we're still here. We cannot be talking about the same issue.
Absolutely. We need closure. We need musicians to be paid, and we know that the broadcasters, I mean, we know they are also struggling, but surely there must be effort. I mean, we pushed these local content issues, and we understand that 60%, at least 60% of the broadcasters are actually doing local content, but are they paying, are they not paying, what's going on. I want to give Angela an opportunity to do her short presentation, which is on the screen, but I think that there is, we may need to create space for her. Ourselves?
No, I'm good here, because I also have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I obstructing? It's all right. Okay, so let's go. Yeah.
It's clear enough. Okay, I'll just browse quickly so we can understand what collective management really is. And as I mentioned, the Collecting Society is basically the organization which has its main object, one of its main objects, the negotiating for the collection and distribution of royalties and the granting of licenses in respect of copyright works or performers' rights. So there are different types of, I think we can just really go through this very quickly, because there are different types of CMOs really. Mechanical rights, music licensing companies, performers, collective management organization, performing rights, reprography. From these, you can see from the examples I gave, MCSK is actually, does anyone know where MCSK would fall in one of those? From the explanation I said before? They're actually a performing right organization. And then there's performers' rights organization, which in Kenya now is the Performers' Rights Society. Then the music licensing company is what we call the producer society. So CAMP would be a music licensing company. And then we have also mechanical rights organization that deals with mechanical rights, and that is another issue. But reprography also for literary works, people who write books, stories also have their own. In Kenya we had CopyCan, but they're not there anymore. But usually there is a reprography organization in each country. And quickly, just to go through the history, how did the CMOs come into play? It's not a Kenyan concept, it's been there internationally in the 1700s. It actually came from the Parisian theaters in France. So the concept of collective management actually came from France, where somebody had written, I guess, some music. They went to a restaurant. The person was taking some food, and on stage was somebody singing their song, the song that they had composed, they had written, and they were wondering, you know, at the end of the day, the waiter came after they had eaten, and they asked him to pay for his meal. So he said, by the way, I'm a writer, I'm a composer, I had my work being performed here. Nobody has paid me for it, and that is what I do. So from then on, you can imagine, it was a tussle, a hassle. He said he's not paying, of course, because he's not been paid for his work. And from then was the birth of collective management, because of course after all that wrangle, it was found out that yes, you cannot be somewhere and using somebody's work, and that is their work, and you're not paying for it. So if anyone has to ever ask you where it came from, it's actually from the 1700s. And then of course for music CMOs traced back to 1847, that's the story of the authors, yeah? But even before that was the drama CMOs. So why collective management, which is the next slide, would say that it's because of massive users. You can imagine us going to every single bar, restaurant, hotel, matatus, every single artist going to all those places. You know, it's going to be chaos. So they're massive users. So when it's impractical or impossible for rights holders to manage their rights, they go to a CMO. It's also to bridge the rights holders and the users. It acts as a bridge, and also in terms of culture, making, you know, the works of artists and authors available to the general public, ensuring that they're used without a lot of, you know, bureaucracies. And of course, we have the standard economic theory, where the administration costs attached to the operations are efficiently managed collectively. You know, it can be very costly to administer these rights individually. Imagine you as an artist, can you really go to every single of the 400 broadcasters I told you about to ask them for your money? It's going to be very difficult. So all these things are usually go behind, you know, a CMO. They actually have initial search costs to identify a rights holder, identify who's going to use your works, negotiate it, collect, monitoring costs are very expensive, observing any contract if there are any contracts, and possible enforcement, which in Kenya is really usually the case. When June was the CEO of CAMP, I was actually the CEO of PRISC, the Performance Society, and we worked in one office. And there's a time we actually went out as CEOs, we were going out with the licensing team. Do you know the users actually told us, kama hamkuji na polisi hatulipi. So we were actually in shock, because we just wondered, you know, then, you know, does it really mean that you don't even appreciate the work of what your artists are putting out? Don't you think that there's a way that, you know, you need to actually pay for the use of that music? Because the truth of the matter is, if you go to a club, for example, and the club is playing your music, let's say, which artist? Give me an artist name.
Rogers.
Rogers. Rogers, yeah. You see the way he's performed for us. And a club is just playing Rogers' music on a recording. What does that mean? Will Rogers just be paid that day? Because he won't get his live performance, isn't it? Because his music is playing. So does he deserve to be played, though? Because the club is actually getting money from the entertainment that they're playing. So that is the essence of why we need to be able to pay for that license and enforce on that, and the collective management organizations have to enforce on that. So a world without CMOs, next slide please, you can guess, what would happen if the CMOs are not there? Will the users stop playing the music? They will still play, but there will be no payment, yeah? The users would not be in a position to use the works, because they're not supposed to be using them, but they'll still pay, and then there'll be no payment. Clear, individual, time-consuming, very costly, registration of copyright, non-mandatory, difficult for a user to find a central point to clear the rights from as such. And the very nature of copyright enabling the transfer of rights will make it difficult for the each user to track each and every transaction. So what are the advantages? If we go to the next slide. For the rights holders, the ones who own the rights, of course, the incentive to create, because you have now your economic gain. You have more economical than individual administration. We've talked about that. Direct access to the users and repertoire and legal and social support. While for the users, you get a larger repertoire because CMOs, everyone, all the rights holders assign their rights to these CMOs. And you can, for users, you can actually, it's a one-stop shop. You get all your rights cleared. Because remember, copyright, you have to get permission from the rights holders to use those works. Ease of access, affordability, blanket licenses, use of copyright material, and training and of copyright. The functions of the CMO, quickly through this so that we can at least finalize, because I know we started a bit late. The CMO then licenses the rights, collects the rights revenue, they monitor the works, they distribute the royalties, they enforce on those rights where there's no payment, and of course for other issues they have data management, they manage the data for the rights holders, and they have also social and cultural activities. So when it comes to licensing, they'll have the rights acquisition, repertoire management. If there are any questions, by the way, just shoot. If there's something that's not clear and you want further elaboration, then just let me know. But we set the tariffs. The tariffs are the amounts of what the users need to pay, negotiating with the users and monitoring the usage. Tariff setting, I think I'll skip this for this particular group because it's just basically you have to set those tariffs based on the standards and fair remuneration. You don't go exorbitantly, but of course you look at the value of rights, which is our next page, where if it's core to your business, if it's a club, between a club and a bar, who do you think would pay more in terms of the tariff? A club, because it's their main business. People go there to dance, isn't it? So that's how we do our, a CMO should structure their tariffs. When it goes to CMO licensing, as we said, I think we've already gone through this. Next slide, please. It's basically what we've just said. First, you communicate the need for a license to the users, and then the user can also come to the CMOs and ask for a license, and then you negotiate on this, but based on the tariff negotiation. And then if this fails, then the CMO shall enforce. But if if the negotiations go well, then the license is given out, and there's a period of that license. And then after a year, we come and renew that license. So basically, that's a very short, timeline for how the CMOs work. Monitoring, the same. You have to make sure as CMOs that you monitor and it's accurate and cost-effective and convenient, because that's how the CMOs should be able to pay out. I know there's a rule of general payment, but it's not fair. Do you think it's fair if we go to the broadcasters where, let's say they play Ben Sol's music, and then Angela's music, who was singing 20 years ago, is not being played right now. Do you think it's fair for us to get the same amount of money? No. So that's why we say that after you monitor, you have to be able to, you pay for play, and you also, as CMOs, you pay the rights holders according to how their music has been played. And that way, that will encourage even Angela to go back to the studio and record more so she can get more money. And the industry now grows. So we really we're shying away from a lot of paying general distribution. If you look at distribution, we have three main methods, and for you who now, if you're singing and your works are actually maybe being played, you have to know that the payment out is based on three methods. There's the census, where we get the monitoring logs from the broadcasters or the logs from the broadcasters, and we are paying for the play, as we've said. But there's also places where you don't know what has played. For example, in the hotels and the bars and restaurants, and you can actually sample a particular where the census distribution is not feasible, you collect a sample of actual performances on the basis to distribute the total revenue. So you can say, for example, we will take revenues from the broadcasting sector from January to March, but we represent that for the rest of the year because maybe it's quite expensive to monitor for the whole year. And then there's the analogy method, where you sample. For example, you go to Kisumu, you say, because this station's Ramogi plays in Kisumu, then you take those logs, because you have the logs for Ramogi, you take those logs and apply them to the hotels and restaurants, because you don't have a way of getting from the hotels and restaurants there. So you assume, when you get the data from the hotels and restaurants, they'll tell you that mostly we played these stations, so you use the data that you have to pay for the other parts. So those are the three main ones. I hope those are understandable. For us at camp, that's how we distribute. We usually have the music ripped, and then we have the fingerprinting, and then we have the monitoring, and we distribute the scientific distribution. And the next slide is enforcement, where it can be, as per copyright, we can be civil enforcement, which we go to court, or criminal, where they involve the police. And as you can see, that told us that this is how we should be doing it in Kenya. There's somebody there with a gun, you can see. That's not a police officer. That was one of the collective management organization. I wouldn't say from which society, but the person also goes out with the guns. So we are saying, no, it's not really necessary. Let's do the right thing, and let's just have compliance without really having to go out guns blazing. We're not going to shoot people because of lack of payment. So other CMO roles, we've talked about social support services, legal services, education. So any musician here, if you have any issues, a producer wanting, you can come and see any of the CMOs to be able to assist. We have the CMO regulations in place. And yes, that should be, I think it's just a snapshot of what we have. If there are any further questions, you can be able to visit our camp website. And the CMO regulations, our regulations for the law have all those issues. They actually outline how we should be able to collect and distribute, and our relationships with the various stakeholders in the industry. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. I think that's a nice 101 class on CMOs, right? Yeah, it kind of gives you the whole spectrum of their definition, their history, what they do, division of labor, and so on, and the challenges that they face collecting. As I said, we were trying to push most of this through licensing. In fact, there was a time we were suggesting that for public transport, the way you do it is you add a percentage. When we are renewing our licenses, we actually also pay a small amount, which then gets back to the musicians, and that might also be a route. And I don't know whether this, the extent to which that has been done, because I've always thought that doing it in a manner that ensures sustainability might be easier, but we'll come back to that detail. Now that you mentioned distribution, I think that this is a chance now for Bilha to share with us, because distribution has always been a big challenge. So Bilha, if you could just sketch for us the distribution opportunities for musicians generally, and especially, and move towards the digital space. And when you do that, also just tell us a little bit about the platform that you use, and and the benefit of actually using your platform.
Thank you. So for distribution for artists, there are various options. I think it depends with which part of the country you're actually from. But because in some parts of the country, CDs are still a viable ways of distributing music. So for that, you have your music physically in a CD and then distribute it to different stores at a certain fee. But for us in Nairobi, most of us are already on the digital side. Most of us don't have CD playing laptops or computers or even cars. Yes, so we have phones, and pia kudownload muziki kujaza kwa simu, pia it's becoming hectic with the kind of phones we have nowadays. So for most people, they prefer to be on digital platforms. So to get your music on digital platforms, it's really very easy. There are various platforms. If you go online and Google how to distribute my music, you will get very many competitors. There are many. And some of them charge at a fee. So you find platforms like TuneCo and CD Baby, they charge a surcharge of maybe $100. I don't know. But they charge a fee. And it depends also with, I think, what you're distributing, how many songs you're distributing, is it an album, is it for a label, all of that. So at 1 RPM, it's free. If you go online and Google how to distribute music for free, our distribution company is going to come up, and then to open an account on there is also free. We take a percentage in their royalties, which means we are invested in how you perform, because we also want to take home our 15%. And for that, we work for that. There's the ISRC and UPC codes that you're given, which enable you to track your performance, and that's how you're paid through distribution. And then now monitoring and promotion, you can do that through your dashboard. So promotion is automated and monitoring is also automated. Very easy. You can see who has paid, who has not paid, when they paid, what has not been paid, and then you can even follow up. How come this platform isn't paying up me? Because I see all my money is coming from this platform, but not this platform. And then we can give you the excuse that they're giving us for not paying you. But it's very accountable. Everything is on the dashboard and very easy.
1 RPM.
1 RPM, yes.
So it's free. You get your percentage from the royalties.
Yes.
What percentage?
85-15. Us is 15. The artist is 85.
Yeah. So the artist gets 85. You get 15, and everything is out there. And guys, okay. I think we will be coming back to this because I would like to check a little more. Yeah, yeah. And I also, I mean, I think that feels pretty good, because when I write my books, I only get 10%, and if when the publisher has worked very, very hard, I get 12%, and even when they have sold 50,000 copies, I still get a very small percentage. And I have always wondered, is this the destiny of us creatives, that we will never really make good money from this? But it seems like from your platform, it might be possible to make some money. Hey, June.
I think you need to sing your book out.
I need to sing my book out and then put it on that platform. Isn't it? And Mike Strano, it's nice to see you. Yeah. Now, June, you know, one of the sticky areas always has been these intellectual property concerns, and I think that, you know, most of our, especially upcoming creatives, this is an area that they don't know enough about. And again, if you could just give us an idea about the rights that, you know, a musician, I mean, some of these are students trying to venture into the industry. What are those rights? What are those opportunities to make money? Okay.
Prof, with your permission, let me just ask those who are in the room, so I know which side of the copyright divide you're on. How many here have written songs? Just by a show of hands. Okay. How many of you have gone to a studio and recorded? So you have some music somewhere. Iko wapi sai? Mziki iko? Iko? It's already on digital platforms. What about you, sir? Who was answering on this side? Where is your music? Stuck in a hard drive, like most of us. You're not alone. Okay, how many of you have paid for your own production? Meaning, you went to a studio, it wasn't a relative or a friend who was helping you at 4 a.m. because that's when studios are free, and then you went away with your master recording. Anybody? So how did you manage to get your music out of the studio? Yes. Yes, go ahead. In writing? Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, so those few questions help me to know where we are at, right? And I don't want you to feel bad because we've all made that mistake as recently as 2023. But I'm hoping after today's session you will think differently about verbal agreements, and you'll think differently about what is available to you. So very briefly, intellectual property or IP is a type of or a discipline within the area of law that helps to protect the things that you create with your mind. So IP can cover areas that are music, that are literature, that is visual art, that is, your paintings, your sculptures. It can even cover fashion. So pretty much from a creative side, copyright would handle the protection of those creative works. The other half is industrial property. Now, for some of you, that may not be necessary right now, but for some of you, it may be. Industrial property covers like the design of this light here and the switch that helps this light go on, because that's still somebody who had to think about how those things work. Software is part of copyright, but how software interacts with a piece of hardware, like there's a team filming us behind there, how that software interacts with the hardware is something that you may find under industrial property. So basically, this area of law is to cover anything that you create with your mind that we call intangible, and something you can't really touch all the time. Now, copyright, as Angela had alluded to in her presentation, is where most of us will fall if we are within the creative musical space, okay? Unless you're doing things like, is it Polycarp who created guitar? Yeah, Polycarp of Sauti Sol came up with a design for a guitar. There's another musician who came up with a design for a saxophone. These are Kenyans, but they are now on the industrial side of industrial property, right? So within your copyright side, depending on the role that you play, you are entitled to certain rights as well as certain responsibilities. Now, for those of you I asked who has written their own songs, you would be covered as what we call an author, or the person who wrote the lyrics. So like Angela is the author of most of the songs that they performed with Tattoo. Some of you may be the vocalist, right? You don't really know how to write songs, but somebody might say, this voice is so nice, let me give this song or license this song to this particular artist, right? I like to use examples. So one of the songs that was really, really popular in the West was a song called I Will Always Love You. Have you heard that song before? Yeah, who sang it? Who sang it before Whitney? Who wrote it? Exactly. Dolly Parton was the songwriter. So every time that song has generated revenue from a songwriting point of view, it is not Whitney Houston who got the money, nor her organization or her estate. It was Dolly Parton. So when you say I'm a musician, we would like to ask you a bit further, what role do you play? Do you write the songs? Because then you can go to MCSK and register as a songwriter there. You can't go to camp and register as a songwriter. Then we ask the person who plays instruments. You saw our brother here playing. He said, I learned how to play a keyboard and a guitar. That instrumentation is another role, because there are some people who cannot play instruments, correct? Now, those people can either compose for you or just be the ones who play in your song. Again, those roles are important to highlight within the creation of your musical project. The people who add the oohs and ahs, BGVs, you've heard of those guys? Background vocals, the guys who come into studio, make your song sound nice and yummy, and then you say, hakuna mtu mwingine, ni mimi tu nimeimba. And we ask you, but we can hear 5 voices. Were you 5 people? No. So we have to recognize the contribution everybody has made. And then ultimately, the track, what we call the track producer, the person who puts the beats together, right? Or the beat maker. We used to say that the beat maker is the whole band, and the guy uses his fingers instead of playing instruments, right? He uses Logic or Fruity Loops or Pro Tools or any of these other softwares that are currently being used. And instead of playing actual guitar, he presses the various tabs to create those sounds. So that guy is almost like an instrumentalist, a super instrumentalist, who plays many instruments to create a track for you. So we go into that detail when we speak about copyright, because it's not enough to say, I have a song, or I made a song. We want to know how. Yani ulifanya nini, uli do what? Within that process. And then ultimately we have publishers. Publishers are the guys who are marketers. They look at the song and they say, I think I can take this song to Hollywood and I can put it in I can negotiate with a producer of a film and put this song as a soundtrack. right? So that can also generate money. We don't really want you, the songwriter, or you, the artist, the vocalist within the song, to be running around trying to negotiate deals in Hollywood. You should be writing more songs and recording more songs and creating more content. So if you remember nothing else today, within the IP or copyright rights that are created, the role you play is important. And that leads me to contracts. So I'll address my brother over there with the verbal contract, because even within that verbal contract, I hope you said, so what have I done and what have you done? So take a piece of paper, even before you hire a lawyer, and write your real names, not Rogers Allman, because there's nobody like that, right? Roger Olele, and say ID number, blah, 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 blah. I am going to be the singer on this song. June is going to write verse 1. Angela is going to write verse 2. Yani, write it down in your very simple English or Swahili. And that becomes the supporting document, even to go and register at the CMOs. They will ask you for supporting documents. Even at the Kenya Copyright Board, they will ask you for a supporting document or a split sheet. Even at the DSP, they will ask you to prove what role you played and what ownership you have. So start to get into the habit rather, of asking the right questions when the creation process is happening. Not when the song has become a hit and there's 10 million shillings on the table and you're fighting with looking at each other like this because there's now money. Do it when you're all broke. Right, when you're all broke, and then plan for success. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, June. Let's give her a clap, guys. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, all these layers, all these layers of copyright and entitlement, yeah? And of course, the fact that you look at the detail, yeah? You look at the detail and, yani mimi ni mwimbaji, we ni mwimbaji which section?
And it's per song, Professor. It's
And
not
it's
per
per song.
album.
Apana.
It's per song.
Per song.
Yeah. In some songs, there are 10 rights holders.
Yeah.
Right? How many of you have, what was the song we used to use, Angela? Gentleman. Gentleman? Sauti Sol and? How many people are in Sauti Sol? How many people are in Punit? We're at how many now?
7.
7. Oh, my fingers are betraying me. 7. And then there was a producer. Then there was a publisher. Bandsoft, yes? How many are we at now? So how are 9 people going to interact every time 10 bob comes in from that song? Kuna vita. Wewe, nipatie yangu, nipatie my 20 cents. That's the whole point. In one song there could be 10 rights holders. Look at choirs. Look at some of these groups. And when you're collaborating, that's the potential risk, but also the potential opportunity.
But then the question is, how do you do valuation of your input? So, so that you can work out percentages. Because I always think it's percentages actually work out better than just general. Yani imekuja shilingi 100 mnaanza kugunina. But if you say that yours is 2%, how do you valuation?
So there are recommendations about ratios that can be applied. Okay. Even within copyright, we'll say a song is 50% copyright and 50% related rights. What is in the copyright? The songwriter, the composer of the tune, the arranger, and the publisher. What is on the related right side? The vocalist, the performer, the actual performer, and the instrumentalist, as well as the record label who finance the process. So there's already some recommended guidelines. You'll find it's usually a 50-50 split, unless it is negotiated otherwise. And that could be for various reasons. I could think I am the best, okay, I am, but I could also think that I am the best vocalist there is in the world, right? And so when I open my mouth, that song's value has gone up times 10. I could negotiate, isn't it? Everything is a negotiation. You could also say, because we don't know if this thing will be a success, let's just agree now, kila mtu ni equal share. You could also say the person who came up with the hook for a song called Tokelezea should get more money, because I don't remember the verses, but I remember the hook. The hook is what? Tokelezea. So I could argue that that's a more popular part of the song. So things could change later. So I always advise, when I have had the chance to speak to creatives, value your contribution based on what one would have had to pay for it. Okay? So if I want to use a very top-notch producer whose rate is like $1 million bob per song, I can't afford him. So if he says, okay, look, because I like you, you're talented, let's just take a 50-50 split, I will sign on the dotted line very quickly. Because the alternative is to find $1 million bob and pay him, which I don't have right now. So I think there's value, and then there's what your budget can afford right now, and there's finding the sweet spot in between there.
Fantastic, fantastic. Rogers, you know, I mean, you are in the industry completely.
Yeah,
have you been grappling with some of these issues?
Absolutely. What this panel is discussing here today, I think it's really, really important. And there's so many people in the scene who don't have this knowledge. Because when you meet artists in the studios and also on the performing platforms, so many people, so 90% of the people who are in the scene are green. And I feel like when you do proper assessment in our industry, producers actually know these things, but artists don't. Artists are clueless. Most artists are clueless because to them they believe, okay, there's an intuition and there's something that has been going on in the industry for a long time. And I feel like we fail as an industry because of our promoters, number one, and number two, because of our producers. When you meet promoters in the studio, what they will tell you is, we want you to make a hit. We want you to make a hit song, and in order for you to be successful in the industry, you need to have a good following online. That's all they will tell you. And then when it comes to things like MCSK, Camp, you know, Prisk, they will never tell you like these things are important for you to do. Because to them, they will tell you that if you don't have numbers, if you don't have an organic following, then whatever you do in studio is senseless. Because you cannot claim royalties if you don't have listeners. And MCSK and Prisk cannot regulate anything, they cannot collect anything if you're not popular enough, if you're not known by the public.
Do you make money out of live performances in Nairobi?
Yeah.
Is there money to be made?
I think that's what I actually want to talk about in detail, because I understand you guys, you're big actors in the scene, and there's a whole perspective about what you guys do, and it's important, and this is actually supposed to be the main thing in the Kenyan market right now. But when you look at music, when you look at the people who are coming from campus, the people who are getting into music, the people who are part of different bands and different music groups, I feel like right now, if you ask me, for somebody who's getting in the scene, somebody who's green, the live performing platforms are the places where these people will get instant money for what they can do with the microphone, with the guitars, with the bands. But this other side is also
fantastic,
equally important.
So if the live performances are like immediate, you know, I mean, because then you actually collect your money, and you, by the end of the day, you know what you've made, isn't it? Or we are on a contract and you get your money at the end of the month, right?
Absolutely. So when it comes to now revenue collection, of course, we have organizations under the government of Kenya who come to different venues to, to do the collection. But also, when you're doing promotion and when we're doing curation, sometimes we as promoters, we get into agreements with different venues, we have contracts with them. Let's say maybe I approach, just an example, Hilton Hotel. I know it's not operational anymore, but you go to Hilton Hotel, you sit down with their management, and you tell them, I have this concept, and under my concept, I'll be bringing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artists, and you guys will pay me a retainer as a promoter, but also when you're paying me the retainer, you have to include the fee for the artists under our agreement. So through our arrangements, we can pay the artist directly. Or we can even pay you immediately. We can give you maybe a deposit, and then after a performance, we clear your fee. But this other side is equally important, because when you think about music logically, and then when you try to relate now the music life, the music career to our lives, because remember, you have to pay bills, you have to eat, you have to dress up. Revenue collection on this other side is really, really important, because you cannot base your survival on one show. And then remember also, I think, in terms of promotion, maybe June, you can correct me. As an artist, when you look at brands nowadays, if an artist is too available, their value goes down. And this is in reference to now management. I think most of the time, maybe sometimes, wanasemaga kuna njaa, and once you're popular and once your music is out there, you want to appear on all the platforms that are available for you. But I think the logical thing to do is make sure you know how to choose, where to go, who to work with. And believe me, when you count the number of platforms that can pay you properly when you're performing live in Kenya right now, I think it's not less than five. So basically, from January to December, you are going to appear 5 times performing live on stage. For the other months, how are you surviving? Where are you getting your revenue? How are you surviving in terms of the business, in terms of what is coming into your account? Yeah. So I think this is something we need to figure out, and we need to see how all these organizations can be effective when it comes now to the artist personally and directly. Yeah.
Okay, I will be opening up for questions and so on in a moment, but there's something I want to us to think about, which is, most of our artists, even some of the most successful ones, still have challenges managing their resources, the resources they get. And I think, I don't know whether it's an issue of self-discipline or the industry itself. Or maybe, I don't know what normally the issue is. And Angela, I mean, because you work with all this when you are also in the industry, have you thought about this challenge of, financial stability in the industry? Even when people are getting a lot, it still tends to be a challenge. Is that something that, if you can just touch a little bit on that?
Yes, I think, and this is very crucial, Prof. I think it's a very important, and it's a subject in itself, and you can actually take a whole day on it. It's just financial management and how you deal with your finances. And I think it's just the nature of the industry as well. I think we're creative, so we are also creative in the way that we use our money, So it's just that creativity. We should just be able to have that discipline. And another day, but at the end of the day, I think it's not just the creatives. It's just boils down to your personal self. But we have to instill that discipline in you, so you can be able to also know other areas. So for us, we have started as camp. That is, we have started to expose our membership through various ways where they can be able to invest, get various insurance, just because you can imagine if you don't have health insurance and something happens to you, you've been, have a bill of $1 million bob, but you've just paid maybe, 6,000 NHIF, but you've saved yourself already $1 million shillings. So those are the small issues. We talk to investors to also come and talk to our members for various investment opportunities. So that education also, because where do you start? So for organizations that can do this for their members, or even if it's the government talking to people, I think this is very crucial to showcase and tell the rights holders where can you actually invest your money once you get this money. So, but you have to also have that personal discipline at the end of the day, and the revenue also, the first place has to be there. So all of us, for me, as the chair of camp, I have to make sure that at least camp is able to deliver for its members, able to pay. It's our it's my responsibility to ensure at least the money is able to come in and go out as it should to the members. So I think that challenge of everyone, one RPM has to make sure that it does its work to distribute to the persons that sign up with them. Even June here has to be able to make sure that the money is able to flow. So it's all the stakeholders in the industry have to play a part, The ones giving the money and now the ones using the money need to be able to be more responsible also in that.
Absolutely. Yes.
I always smile when the question is asked the way you've asked it about success, because I think success is also very subjective. There's very popular creatives out there who are broke. Okay, we send them love and we don't send them money, so their accounts are broke, their hearts are full. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that this problem happens. What we define success as, it's a flashy car or the appearance of material things. And I like sharing this particular reality that happened with an artist who was entering a deal with a corporate. And the corporate was like, so how much would it cost for this? And they were given the rate. And they said, I'm just like, my company is 5 years old. I don't have that money. So what can we negotiate, right? And I thought this artist was so clever. I thought I really appreciated them thinking outside the box. They said, okay, you can pay me half in cash, and half you can give me a plot of land. And I went, see, now we want cash now, right? But the value of that land is going to appreciate. And maybe they can build a home on that land later on. They don't now have to look for cash to buy. I just thought it was such an interesting way of thinking, because they now have a title deed that they never had before. Yeah. Plus, they also got a bit of cash. So when we define that success, it could be, as Rogers is saying, a gig every month, a gig every week is equals to success. That gig might be paying you 2K. But you're a very successful, busy musician, right? Or it could be one gig, everyone is waiting for, Oktoberfest. Everybody waits to be hired for Oktoberfest. It happens once a year. You cannot sit in your house for 364 days hoping and praying you'll be hired for Oktoberfest, because now you're popular. So I think success is also, in and of itself, you have to define what that is for you. If your family have a roof on top of their heads, and if you pass away, there is something for your kids to continue going to school with and eat and have shelter, that could be what success then should be. And stop expecting, as creatives, that everybody else will have to give us. We have to also work for. Yeah.
We have to work for, and I want to really open up this to our participants to be able to ask direct questions to you. You have heard about Roger's journey. You have heard about intellectual property rights. You have heard about the digital platforms and the opportunities they actually provide. And you have heard also about CMOs. Do you have any quick, rapid questions? I can see one at the back. Yeah, I think let's take that first one. Yes. And if you can just ask the question directly to one of them, yeah.
So my name is Mulu Akili, and I'm an artist. And I won't necessarily talk about the money, because in all honesty, if you're an artist, let's not kid ourselves. Most of us will be broke forever. Most of us won't make it. And I think everyone here is okay with that fact. Not all of us will make money. Because, and I say this coming from, I say this in a good way, because
even the microphone has refused.
I say this in a good way, because, okay, because let's say like back home, kama nataka kununua maziwa na duka mimi hununua maziwa iko na wase wengi, I just go to the next shop. With music, it's not like that. People will book Sauti Sol till the day Sauti Sol dies. Music won't accommodate a lot of us. And if you look at developed industries, that's usually not an issue, because in those industries you find that even like people who would term smaller artists in popularity can still fend for themselves, in the fact that they can still hold shows, they can still get an audience. And that brings me to my first question to Madam June, because you work in radio, and one of the issues I usually have with the platforms we have back home is the ability to share our own music, because most people in the public feel like, oh, Kenyan music is not as good, or if we were to play 90% Kenyan music, what would we play? We don't have a lot to play. And that is because there's a lot of our art that is not heard, that people don't know of, and that is because we don't have like platforms that are in search of music. Like if I look at, like I said, developed industry. So when I look at like developed industries, there's always platforms, whether be it in their radios, their TVs, that are in search of new talent, new songs, like people who are on it every day. Back home, I feel like it's just more of like payola, which I'm fine with, because at the end of the day, it's a business. But are there people behind the scenes who feel like, or who are trying to bring up systems that accommodate like the search?
Our music, and they actually look out for it. I think we're killing
just development and just bringing things to the public so that so much can be known.
Okay, we got it. Thank you. I think we can take a few.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Squitch Musau Wambua. I am basically a performing artist with a strong bias in acting, but I'm soon crossing over into the world of music. And I stay in a town called Makutano Junction, the junction when you go into Machakos. Yeah, I'm gonna cut straight into a question and a bit of encouragement to my fellow artists. There's an issue that has just been raised about financial management. And I am a trained performer from the Theatre Company of Kenya, headed by Keith Pearson. That's where I graduated from doing my performing arts studies. And one of the things that we were being taught in the training program is something called lifestyle management skills. How to manage your lifestyle as an artist, because you're a personality that is quite outgoing. So you have to learn how to manage that. Now, you see, not very many people got the opportunity that I got to go through a training program. For instance, for a whole year, I was actually being paid to go to school. It was a very good program funded by Stitching Dune, HEVOS, Oxford Foundation. Even the British Council was coming in along once in a while. But now, if I could structure this to this conversation that we're having right now, let me speak on behalf of the Machakos people, because that's my home. That's where I bought land and I've built. I don't pay rent. I only spend less than 500 bob coming back to Nairobi. I can come do my stuff and go back. Najaribu kuwashow you can actually work hard, save, invest, and live a comfortable life. You don't always have to end up broke. You just have to manage your money. But now, how can this conversation that we're just having get to Machakos County with a bias of Makutano Junction, because that's my home, and that is a town that is growing very fast. There's a big number of artists. So how can we have these conversations
in Makutano Junction?
In Makutano Junction.
Very good pitch. Yeah. Very good effort.
Okay.
I thought that was the name of a drama series.
It's actually it's called Chumvi. Written Chumvi.
Tumekupata vizuri.
Last question. Could we have training programs or workshops, like say on a week, like say after 3 months or something like that, for upcoming artists on see like the kind of information they've gotten here and now to get people on a more practical level on how to make a few steps. Thank you very much.
Hi guys. My name is Mugambi Ikiara. I'm a performing artist. I do a lot of things, but for now I'm going to ask about music. First of all, it's a very direct question. The first one is, how do you exactly have work with DJs? Because DJs will still sample different work from so many different artists and then come up with a unique product, but it still is someone else's work that they're putting in as their own idea eventually. At the end of the day, it's a whole mix, different artists. Secondly, I'd like to pose a question to the audience. How many of you have music on your phones right now that you have paid for? How many of you have music in your phones that you have not paid for? Don't answer that. Utashikwa. Because you're obviously doing, you're getting into piracy of someone else's music. Piracy does play an important role of making someone known. That's the truth. So many of us have probably never paid for music or have never paid for movies or anything, and you have a guy who sells you this music. Kuna msewa saiba mahali who does all these things. So why would I, an artist, choose to, saizi I'm about to sound almost fatalistic, but why would I choose to be part of a CMO and yet nikitoka kwangu niende mahali hapa kwa cyber, I know someone who's selling my music for like 100 bob per GB of music, per like I could work for like for example, Sauti Sol, Nezenda mahali, I get all the albums from Wanzo all the way to now for like 100 bob or 200 shillings, and yet they still are going to expect royalties to be paid. If it's not enforceable by anyone else, to the point where people have decided to make a whole career out of piracy, what's the point for me?
That's a really cynical question.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendi Kiambi. I am a vocalist and an actress. So my question is to the ladies who are on the panel and have done music once in their life or are still doing music. Like, how is it that you guys started? Because there's always that point of starting and that point of like imposter syndrome-ish, fear-dom-ish, and then now you start. So it's just a simple question. How did you guys do it and start?
Angela, how did you start? And then we'll...
Oh, goodness. For me, we began singing. As tattoo, I had already cleared my campus. I was in law school here in the University of Nairobi. It's actually more than 20 years ago. But do not calculate that age. But I was actually I remember one of my last classes, evidence class, which I could not get anything in class. I was actually writing our first song, which I think was the hit song, because I think naturally I am just a creative. I love music. I've loved music for the longest time. But I had that passion to actually just produce the music and have it out there. We tried the Star Search with that particular song, just getting into the competition. We had various competitions in Kenya. We didn't make it. Then now we just said, let's just produce the song. And at the same time, because I was dancing before the group for Nameless, and Nameless had just kicked us out because the dancing styles had changed. It was now a bit, more creative with the behind, colorful with the behind, that we could not keep up. So we had to morph because we didn't want to leave that industry. I ended up just writing the song to be able to just be part of that whole group. So the way it began for us was pretty different. I had already cleared my law school, as I said, so I wasn't really doing it as a career. I just did it because I loved it and I wanted to be out there, and I was more of a creative. I just felt that creativity in me. I was yearning for that creativeness, and that's why we did it.
Is it the same time with Wahoo and Nameless?
Yes. We actually were at the same time with Wahoo and Nameless, actually. We were in the same, we were Ogopalets then. We were from the Ogopa team.
I thought so.
Yes, we used to go around together, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
So it's just about, if you have, don't feel like you have an imposter syndrome. I guess that's if you feel that, then you have to work towards that, because that's an individual, it's an individual maybe characteristic. So I think I would say that you work for it, because for me it was different. For me, I just wanted to get out there. I wanted to perform. I wanted to, I just loved going on stage. Maybe because throughout, even in high school, I used to go on stage, and it was something that I've done for a long time. So I think it's just about you working on that. Do not feel anything. Do not fear. I mean, look at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give you time. We'll give you time before we leave to really interact directly with her. Okay. So that you can gain courage and energy. And now that you also still have the mic, might you want also to respond to Mugambi's question on why should he?
Mugambi,
really?
yes, Mugambi. Now, piracy and CMOs are two totally different things. The CMO will not even collect on piracy or deal ordinarily with piracy. The work of the CMO is to look for where your music has played and pay you. And the fact that there's somebody pirating your music doesn't mean that the CMO will not collect. We don't look, you're playing pirated music here, we won't collect from you. No. You, wherever you're playing our members' works, pay you for that music. So I think as an individual, because piracy, you say, even if you go to the Kenya Copyright Board, whose main mandate actually is, one of the main mandates is piracy, they will tell you they need a complainant. You as a rights holder has to go and complain for them to actually go through the proceedings. It's a crime in Kenya. So yeah, it's a whole different topic. But I appreciate what you're saying. Yes, we should be able to crack down on the pirates, both physical and online. Music consumption is now online, and that's why we usually applaud the DSPs who now make it possible for people to actually access. And somebody had said, I don't know if it's you or Wakili who had talked about pirates help in the distribution. But now with online, we have the real distributors who can make it possible for you to get all these online. And the online platforms also have freemium models where you can actually get it for free, but through advertising, the right person gets back their money. So we encourage compliance of the use of all these mediums that are actually legal.
Very good. Yes, I actually was coming to you. Yes, Bilha, please. Yes.
I mean, what he's asking is I resonate with it because a lot of artists have been complaining about earnings. But there are various ways to make money outside of publishing. There's distribution, there's shows, there's brand endorsements. You should just, like Rogers had said, figure out what your strength is, and if you can, get on board a team and all of that, and then you start making little money. You're not going to make $1 million in one day, but little money, like your friend has suggested there. I think it's about contentedness too, like being okay with whatever little you have and building on that instead of comparing yourself to Sauti Sol or the rest.
Or June.
Yeah. Or June. Yes. But don't give up. There's many ways to make money in music, and artists are making a lot of money on music.
Yeah, before you leave the mic, okay. 1 RPM. Is anybody making money from your platform?
So much money.
I would like to know.
You want to know the names or how much money they're making?
An average rate.
Most artists are making money on distribution, but how much money you make is really up to your effort.
Correct.
But the top 10 artists in Kenya are making between $2,000 to $7,000 monthly on streaming. And those are the ones I know. Obviously, there's artists I don't know that are making wildly more money on streaming.
That's a lot of money.
I want us to calculate it in Kenya shillings times 150. So if it's $2,000 at a minimum, that means 300,000 shillings a month. So iko pesa.
That's
And
7,000.
7,000, you can calculate the 7,000 is what? 1,050,000, I think. So, yeah, kazi kwenyu.
There was a very powerful article in the Saturday paper on making money online.
Yes.
And I was actually quite impressed by the amount of money that appeared to people are making online. June, if you could address that question. Wakili asked the question about
Radio.
Wakili asked the question about radio. And when you were answering that question about radio, if you could also talk just a few minutes on the blank tape levy and the possibility of people making a little money from it also.
That one, the chair of
The
camp
chair of camp will do that. Okay, no problem.
But yes, I mean we can address both. So Wakili, look, I think I can only speak from my experience. I said I've been on radio for now 2.5 years. Yeah, this month I think actually, and so it was a very interesting learning experience. This quote unquote late in my career, because I take a different position from you. First of all, payola in our station does not happen because I wish we were better organized to receive the money. We are not. And so I think the person you're speaking about is me. What I have tried to implement, because I have a very deep passion for Kenyan music, or music by Kenyans, which is also not the same thing. I have started a segment on my show that runs every Tuesday called Jamming on the Jam. And we invite in Kenyan artists of whatever genre to come in, perform their music live, and speak a little bit about their journey. And obviously, if they have recorded music, we play it for that entire hour. And what it does, my whole aim was to get the music in the system, because that's the first problem, right? The music research department may not know about all these amazing artists who I get access to because of the live performance scene, right? And so they may not be mainstream, they may not be fully commercial artists, but they are extremely talented. And I don't agree with you 100% that most won't make it, because I truly believe there is an audience for everybody. I am nowhere near a commercial artist, nor am I mainstream. But other than God loving me so much, there's a reason why I've been able to survive in this industry and be successful by my own measure for 27 years, yeah? Because I have my own audience. Do I need 10,000 people? No, I don't. Me, my kind of people is, if we reach 400 now, I'm stressed. It's too many. It's too much love, right? So I think there is a market for each type or each genre. I was talking to a group of classical musicians the other day, and they are kicking butt with the amount of music that they are performing and how many shows they are performing. I can't even talk to their audience because they are not my audience, but they are doing their thing. So payola, from my experience, I have not seen. What I think is the problem is that the artists who have music don't know how to access the radio stations. There's an assumption that is made, like I've seen it at Capitol. You guys just play Muzungu music, so we're not even going to come to you. An artist has been in the industry for 25 years, 20 years, 15, and when I invite them, they go, "Guy, at Capitol, me." And I'm like, yeah, do you not have music? Yes. Do you not sing? Yes. And for a lot of them, it was their first time. So I asked them, why didn't you, as a musician, never bring your music to Lonro House? We have been in the same place for 22 years. And it was like, I just never thought they would play my music. So it was never a refusal. It was just I don't think I can access, which could be that imposter syndrome, that Karimi? Kendi was, my mom is Karimi, so Kendi was speaking about. So I think we have to change the narrative ourselves. It's not that big bad world against us. There's more artists now than there are platforms. So I would say let's handle that.
Yeah,
sure.
Maybe I can add something to what you're saying. As artists, I think there's something we need to understand. There's a distinction when it comes to mainstream media and now the lives, other ways of you having a chance to put your music out there. And I'll keep on insisting, as artists, you need to surround yourselves with people who understand the scene properly, people who are deep-rooted in the way the system works. Because according to so many people, so many artists in our industry, is if they'll never make it, if their music will never get to be played on mainstream media, then they're failures. But that is not the case, because I've had the privilege of working with so many artists, people who are big mainstream musicians, and also people who are barely known. even when you go to, let's say, maybe Facebook. But there are people who are making millions and they're unknown. There are people who are doing Ohangla. There are people who are doing Mugithi. And believe you me, they're richer than the people who have 10 million views online. So it's just about the way you position yourself, the way the kind of strategy your team has to push your music, and also the selling point in the way you package yourself.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I was just going to say that do not try to do everything also by yourself. I think at the end of the day, music business is a team. It's not a one-man show. If you want to be successful, you'd rather get, as Prof has said, he gets 10%, but I'm sure that 10% is quite an amount.
It's good, it's good.
Yes. It's better to get 10% of a million bob than get 100% of 10 0 shillings. So just don't shy away from getting the right people. As Jeffrey said, you have to get your team together and get your producers, your publishers. That's their work, to actually go out and make sure your music is playing and your music is being consumed so you can get your money.
Yeah, Bill, yes.
I wanted to add, this is also the most exciting time in Kenyan music. Don't let people that are talking on Twitter make you feel bad, because this is the time I'm seeing most investors. There's so many artists that are getting advances on royalties, signed to labels. They're getting so much money to be able to, like seed investment, to be able to do the music. So don't give up, actually. As much as we're not doing talent shows to discover new talent, somehow we're seeing talent. Like me, when I go, how I do discovery, I go to YouTube chats. I see Kaveve Kazoze, I'm like, yeah, let me sign that one. Okay, there's Mutras there. Okay, let me sign that one. Like, that's how we find people. So as long as you're putting yourself out there, people are going to find you.
Yeah, I think, yes.
Allow me just to answer those two questions before I forget, because nimeseka pia. Kidogo. Mugambi asked about DJs, and I want to address DJs as well, because there's almost a correlation between Wakili's question and DJs, right? So DJs argue all the time that they are the reason artists get discovered, right? They say that they are your marketing department for free. So if you give your music to a DJ who has a popular circuit of places that he performs, and we all know where they are, don't we all know where they are, including our people from Nyeri? We know where the DJs who have a good following and perform at popular venues are. And in our mind, that's part of our marketing strategy, right? Get my music to that DJ so that he can play it at BND, and then he goes and plays it at wherever the other places are on Mombasa Road, and Quiver Lounge, and wherever else, and people will start to know, like, hey, what song is that? Even before it has played on radio, okay? Now, you're very right in the sense that they create mixes that they generate money from. They are users of people's music who should be licensed by the CMOs, because they are using, just like a barber shop, just like a club, just like a restaurant, they are using other people's art to create a product that they can earn money from. Are their fingers skilled to do chuku? Yes, but that is a service. Yeah, the rest is where the creativity and the talent is, but the raw material they are using does belong to other people. So I think there's nothing wrong with understanding that and still using that marketing arm. Very quickly on the piracy, my argument is it stops being piracy if you have a contract with the pirate. Do I need to repeat that again? It stops being piracy if the pirate and you enter a contract. They become your distributor. Are we together? Because you're very right. They make artists popular in counties that the artist has never been to. But if the only difference is that they never asked you for permission. So if you and the pirate know each other and you start discussing and saying, I know what you're doing, I can report you because it's bad manners, or you can stop, or we can negotiate and you can come clean. Technically, that's what negotiating a distribution agreement looks like, right? So anyway, but I'm not telling you to go and give pirates your money again, right? Kendi, let me just address you for 2 seconds, please. You asked about our careers. Mine was very different from Angela's. I did try this to talent such things as well, but I started singing when I was in school. that's kind of where my love for music began. Then my parents were tired of my noise and took me to music school, like on Satos, just so they could have peace in the house. But that was the best gift they could have given me, right? So I did all the music festivals for school. I did all those competitions, and I was singing at church in the choir. My first commercially paying gig, was a wedding, right? When I was 18 or 17 or something like that. And they paid us money to sing at the wedding. And me, I said, what? I'm going to be paid every single time I open my mouth. It started there. Did I know if I was good? I didn't care. Me, I'm like, you're going to give me your money to sing for you at your wedding when you're walking down to the man you love. I'll take it. I'll take the money. And I did the work, right? So part of the problem I think we have with a lot of our younger artists now is they're not doing the work, which is do your vocal warm-ups, go get a vocal coach. You'll be surprised how many of the popular artists now are going to vocal classes, including Anyashinsky, who started taking vocal classes. So if you start listening to his music more, he's singing more than he is rapping. So if he can go at this stage in his career to a vocal class, see, even us, we can go and improve our, yeah? So I think just put the work in, and then be available. It can start with karaoke across the road here on Saturday nights, just there. Come on Saturday and sing. Some of us who are scouters, we come and sit there with a cup. You don't know it's us. We drink our nice cat drink, and then who is that chick? Candy, okay. Somehow you will get a call. So be available, okay?
Very good. Candy Umeskia. I'm trying to bring this to a closure, but I want the blank tape, Levy, briefly.
Unfortunately, Prof, I can't answer any questions on black tape right now because there is a case in court. So it's sub judice. I can't, with the legal, we can't speak about anything about blank tape right now, unfortunately. But once the court...
Notwithstanding the fact that there was an op-ed on the Saturday paper.
Actually, that's even sub judice because the person who wrote knows that he's in court. He has been taken to court. Yeah, so it's actually an issue, and he might have to face the consequences of discussing about it.
I read it from the first word to the last, rather closely.
And also misrepresenting several facts at it. So it was, I can't even go. Let me not.
Okay. Then
I would love to give more information, but yes, I please.
There are two little things I would like to do. One, I want to give Stella Kemunto, who is from the county of Nairobi, an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, on what Nairobi is doing. Because you see, we have an opportunity to really grow Nairobi as a creative city, both in terms of film, in music, in fashion, in all these areas. And we know that the governor is himself a musician. What is Nairobi City County doing to support us? Stella, very briefly, I know I've ambushed you, but hey.
We have all creatives in Nairobi: film, fashion, arts, the matatu culture, all the cultures in it. So we need to make policies around them so that all of us in Nairobi can feel and taste what we have in Nairobi. The plan we have for this year is Nairobi Festival, whereby all creatives are invited to come and showcase. The one you are saying, Love Nairobi, Eat Nairobi, or our local artists have a platform to showcase their artists. And this one, for this round, we don't want to have many cultures, but we want to have the urban sherehe, tukuje tushereke. So music is also invited. Karibuni.
Thank you very much. Let's give a clap to, yeah, we are familiar with the 2017 Act. We would like to have a very robust framework for enhancing music. I would like for you to identify the person you'd like to follow up with a question, so that we are talking and engaging each other even as we have a cup of tea.